Hello, and welcome to PeachFuzz, presented by Lakepoint Sports and Prep Baseball Georgia. I'm Grayson Rosen. I'm joined by Prep Baseball Georgia Scouting Director Hudson Graham and Prep Baseball Georgia Assistant Scouting Director Ian Smith. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Fantastic, man. Glad to be here.
Awesome.
In
Yeah.
the
Well,
studio.
we've had a long couple of weeks with baseball. Today, everything getting rained out. The spring break experience going on right now at Lakepoint, and we start with day one. Ian, I know you got a chance to be up here for a little bit. Anything in particular that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I really saw a really good arm out of Ohio, out of Olentandy Liberty. His name was Parker Van Engelhoven. A tough one to get out right there, but it was a really good arm. He's the number 2 2026 in the state of Ohio in Ohio's rankings. It's a really low slot righty up to 89, working a really good sweeper up to 77 with over 2,700 spin, and he was working the sweep up to 17 inches. It was a really good outing. He ended up going 6 strong for a good team. And also in the day, another guy stood out for me, Connor Essenberg, a guy from Lincoln Way West, guy committed to Kansas State, a big physical right-handed hitter, plays right field and first base. Showed some toughness during the stream yesterday. Got hurt his ankle on a play, got up and almost beat out an infield single. It was a really good showing from him as well.
Awesome. Well, day one was kind of storied by the walk-offs. The first game, we had a walk-off by Brady Bonashi of Olentangy Liberty to cap off a 6-run comeback. And then in the second slate of games, a walk-off by Jack Linto of Lincoln Way West in extra innings, bottom of the ninth, to take down Olentangy Liberty. I know you got a chance to be on the broadcast for that second game. Anything you could speak to with that one?
It was a back and forth game. It was good to see all the pitching from both teams. Lincoln Way West came out and tried to throw some of their good arms at the end, and it went back and forth. There was a lot of timely hitting and good defense, surprisingly, in a game that went that long after playing back-to-back games in their first games. This is Olentandy's first 1 and 2 games of the season, so to open their year with a walk-off win was great. To come back from 6 runs and then to finish the second one in a battle like that was impressive.
Awesome. Well, we've also got Week 7 of Georgia High School baseball upon us. Week 1 of prep baseball spring break experience is going to continue tomorrow and through Thursday, and then Week 2 the next week. But let's get back to Week 7. We'll talk a little bit about what happened in Week 6. We have the Week 6 Power 25. We've got the new classification rankings. And we'll talk about some of the games you guys got to catch, maybe some of the games you will be catching later this week. And then we'll get through some of our performers of the week and then talk about everything going on this weekend and onward. All right, are you guys ready to get into the Week 6 Power 25?
Absolutely, man.
All right, so we start off Parkview, Lowndes, still 1 and 2 respectively. Anything you guys want to speak to about why these guys sit at the top?
Yeah, I can touch on Lowndes really quickly. We actually have a big-time matchup down there today versus Trinity Christian from Florida, which is a nationally ranked top 10 opponent in our national rankings. So we'll get to see how they stack up. It was a 1-run game last time they played at Lowndes. It was like a 5-4 game, so we'll see how they stack up. The lineup for them, I think, is what's going to keep them in games. I think they have Noah Thigpen, a Troy commit, at the top, leading the way on the mound for them. But we'll see what their lineup looks like. I think that's what's going to keep them the most consistent with Auburn commit Matthew Kerrigan, Georgia Tech commit Carson Page, and a lot of other scrappy guys that know how to get it done in South Georgia.
Awesome. Well, after them, you have Cartersville at 3, Stars Mill 4, Cherokee Bluff at 5. All of them move up one spot because of a team falling out of the top 3. How much separation is there really in that top 5?
Speaking on that, I don't think there's much separation at all. I think each team has their strengths and each team has their weaknesses right now. I think Cartersville's the team you're talking about sitting there at 3 that could be a team to move up into that top spot eventually. They're getting an arm coming back here soon in Avery Shiflett, I believe a Georgia commit who's been out all year with an arm injury. He comes back to throw for an already deep rotation, a really strong lineup as well. And I think that's a team in 5A that can really make a push as the year goes on.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest thing for these guys is just finding the consistency on the mound. A lot of them have big front end starters with Parkview with Thorpe Muskie and Ford Thompson, and then you roll into Etowah with Matthew Sharman and Caleb Hughes. So I think it's that bullpen that's the biggest thing for these guys. Lowndes has Noah Thigpen that we talked on. Houston County has Will Allen, who's been lights out all year, four shutout games in a row for him. So I think it's finding that consistency in the bullpen for a lot of these teams at the top that's really going to separate them. Because offenses, they're going to have good nights and bad nights. They're not going to score 10 runs every game, which a lot of them have been. But these games that are lower scoring, they're going to rely on their bullpen a lot to get them towards the top of the leaderboard.
Awesome. So we had another big mover in the top 10. Harlem moves from number 10 up to number 7. Anything you guys want to speak to about that team and how well they've been doing?
They just keep winning. Each week we look on there, and it's another couple wins to the win column. So we got to get down there to see them within the next couple weeks. We got to see them last year in the playoffs, and they're obviously returning a lot. I know we touched on Will Holder a little bit last time, Georgia Southern commit. I know he kind of leads the way for them. But, yeah, they're on the list to get down and see. They, like I said, they keep winning 20-0. Next week, I'll probably be 22, 23-0. So it's definitely a big accomplishment for them to keep running the table like they have. They took on Greenbrier early in the year, which started the year off in the top 25. So they've had some good wins. Obviously, some teams here and there might not be as strong, but they have played quality guys and taken care of business.
Awesome. Well, the next one, Houston County falls 3 spots to number 10, but as well, Etowah falls 8 spots to number 11. Can you guys speak to the steep drops for the two of these teams?
Speaking on Etowah first, I think they were such a strong team at the first, and they've been at the top of the Power 25 almost seemingly all year long. So a drop like this seems to be huge on paper. They had 2 back-to-back losses, once at Kell and one at Cherokee, which is rough to look at on paper. Those are games that they should win with their lineup that they have and their rotation. To have those 2 losses back-to-back, as well as a couple region losses as well at Sequoia and at, I believe someone else, excuse me.
Altoona.
Altoona. Those 2 losses as well, and combined with the losses at Kell and Cherokee really just compound and makes them drop a little bit right now. But I think they have the team to make a push. Like I mentioned last week, Dimitri Angelakos coming back is huge. And as he gets his back and gets his timing down at the plate and both on the mound, I think it'll be huge on the stretch for them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hudson, anything about Houston
Yeah, for sure.
County?
Just to touch on Etowah a little bit too, inter-county rival matchup between Cherokee, those are always electric. You never know what you're going to get on those.
Extra inning game as well.
Yeah, they want to win. They want to beat the inter-county rival, so they're tough too. A rival game like that, they don't want to throw all the region guys, but they also want to win. And Cherokee, Coach Thomas does a great job with them. They're a scrappy bunch, so they can definitely sneak a big win here and there. But yeah, touching on Houston County, I think that, like I mentioned, Will Allen is on a roll. He's 4 shutout wins in a row for him. Big righty up to 92. But they've got Carson Small, left-handed arm, going to Pensacola State out right now with a little arm injury. So I think that's going to be one of the deciding factors in their series against Tiff coming up this weekend, which is obviously we've kind of been hyping it up. 2 of the top teams in that class taking on pretty much for the region. Unless something crazy happens, whoever wins this series is going to take home that region. So I think for them, I think their lineup's going to play. They got guys that can run. They're going to steal bases. They're going to be in games. They're not just going to get blown out. So I think taking a couple steps back, they dropped 1 to a region opponent, which kind of hurt them. So that was probably the biggest thing for them is, in a region series, they probably should have taken care of business. Coach Hopkins knows that they probably didn't need to drop that one, but they won the series, which is all that matters, and now they're ready to go for TIFF actually today and Friday.
All right. Well, we've got the next one is Prince Avenue Christian. They fall 3 spots following their first loss of the season. They find themselves at 12 now. Anything about that team that kind of brought them down this week?
Yeah, Ian got to see Augusta Christian a little bit this past weekend, and then I obviously saw Prince Avenue last week. So I think it's a big trend for us. It's arms. They got Mason Banks, Belmont Abbey commit, and then they got a couple other pieces that they're trying to figure out. They got 2 sophomores that are pretty strong, that are going to be guys for them down the road. But their lineup is going to continue to produce. I think that it was a low-scoring game against Augusta Christian, so I think a quality arm maybe got them a little bit, but I think they're still going to be in it, at the top once that season ends for them.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about Noonan. They rise 4 spots up to number 18, a big jump. What's the biggest factor in their move?
I think Noonan just hits. I think it's a sneaky lineup. I think from 1 through 9, they have a bunch of guys that really hit. Starts with Hayes McGinnis and Wills McGinnis at the top, a freshman and a senior respectively. Hayes plays second base and starts on the mound for them. He gets on base seemingly in every way possible. I saw him a few nights ago. He went 0 for 0. He was 0 for 0, but was on base 5 times with 3 walks and hit by pitches twice. He ended up stealing 5 bases and scoring 5 runs as well. He was a productive night without getting a hit. It's a guy who didn't see a pitch for 8 at-bats in a row and still had the makeup and the approach to take up there and see it, take at-bats and take good approach and get on base as well. Another guy for them as well, Cam Barnes, a Western Georgia commit, is sitting in center field, always hits every week. And the guy that I've seen a bunch as well is Cam, I just mentioned Cam as well, but Dax Kilby, a Clemson committed 2025 shortstop. pretty much as consistent as you'll find in the class. Really good glove at shortstop, really good bat the ball skills are there, showing some power, and just really consistent in his every day. Doesn't get it way too up, doesn't get way too low, and just brings a consistent approach for that team.
So remaining undefeated, Villarica moves up to number 20. Anything about that team that you guys wanted to touch on?
No, we haven't got a chance to see them yet. We're going to try to get over there. Logan, our other guy, was able to get over to see Bowden, which is over in that area last week. So they're another one on the list. I think they're similar to Harlem. I think they got a couple pieces. I got to see a couple of their guys in the fall during a West Georgia campus tour deal that we did. Can't remember their names off the top of my head, but they got some quality guys. Those couple guys, from what I can remember, are really good ball players. So we'll put them, circle on the list to get out to see what their undefeated season's all about.
Awesome. And then after their 6th loss, Walton drops 3 more spots down to 22, now on the brink of falling out of the Power 25. What does Walton need to do to turn this around?
I think it's a combination of Walton's small losses in games they should win, combined with the strength of schedule that we've seen in 7A. 7A has been a strength all year long with the teams at the top. We have a bunch of teams in the top 20 in the Power 25 from 7A. You're looking at teams like Parkview and Lowndes and North Gwinnett and Brookwood, North Paulding. All these teams have been consistent all year long without big losses like Walton has had. Walton has lost some tough games down the stretch at really bad timings for them. I mean, as they get their timing down, they have the lineup and they're in the rotation to beat anybody, but they just have to put it together on a nightly basis, and they haven't seemed to do that quite yet.
Awesome. Well, LaGrange is the final team we'll talk about here. They fall out of the Power 25 all the way from 18. A big drop for LaGrange. What happened?
So Ian was able to go down and see them against Stars Mill. I think just touching on that a little bit, I think that a big, rival series like that between LaGrange and Stars Mill, they had some close games. They battled back a couple times, and I think just losses like that can deflate you a little bit. I know LaGrange is a well-coached, hard-nosed ball club, so I'm sure they'll bounce back. But they had a couple losses after that Stars Mill series that kind of dropped them a few spots, but I think they'll get right back in it, in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, anything to add to that, Ian?
Not really. I think, again, we talk about pitching a lot, and so pitching needs to be almost perfect for LaGrange as well. They're a team that's not that deep on the pitching front, so they're getting pieces from the lineup on the mound as well, trying to get two-way players all throughout the lineup for them. So I think getting that consistent pitching throughout the year is going to be huge for them to make their way back in the top 25.
Fantastic. Well, that kind of wraps up everything we have to talk about the Power 25, but this week we're going to talk a little bit about classification rankings, and why don't we just go ahead and get into it. In 7A, we'll go through the top 10, and then we'll kind of come back, talk about a couple of teams. So some familiar faces. Parkview, number 1, Lowndes, number 2. North Gwinnett and Brookwood switch places this week. North Gwinnett find themselves in 3rd, Brookwood in 4th. And then at number 5, North Paulding stays still. Buford staying in their space at 6. Marietta and Walton flip places at 7 and 8, respectively. And then we find West Forsyth and Harrison holding their places in 9th and 10th.
Yeah, I can touch on the Brookwood North Gwinnett flip a little bit. North Gwinnett had a win over North Hall, which was they're in the Power 25 mix. I got to go out to see them a couple weeks ago, and they have a frontline starter in Caleb Sexton with a really scrappy lineup that's going to hit and score some runs. But they took care of business at North Hall, so they bump up there. Brookwood still the best starting rotation in the state, if not the whole country at times. So they're going to stay in the mix all year, even though that their lineup's a little bit inconsistent. They have some guys at the top. They got some younger guys that are coming up. They're going to stay in the mix just with those starting arms.
Awesome. Anything to add to this list, Ian?
I think West Forsyth is a team to watch. I think they have a lineup that continues to hit and they get stronger as the years went on. They're led by a really strong arm in Connor Williams that I've talked about on here, whether it's on live stream or on the pod as well. Going to Georgia, senior arm, working 3 pitches, throws for strikes, really knows how to compete. And they have some guys that we really like here at Prep Baseball Georgia, and Colton Sweat and Charlie Delp, who are uncommitted 2026s, who have been huge for them this year as well.
Yep,
Awesome.
Mason Meehan will be coming back for them as well. He had a wrist injury that I think's been lingering for him a little bit, but ended up being broke. So he was in a cast. He's out a few weeks, but should be back soon. So he'll be a big piece to get back, hopefully in a playoff run for West Forsyth.
Awesome. And right outside of this top 10, we find Carrollton, Collins Hill, Decula, East Coweta, and Westlake. Any of those teams that you're looking to maybe jump into one of these spots?
Carrollton, I really like. We got to see them at Georgia Dugout Club. They have a freshman at the top of the lineup for them, and Caleb Hudson. He's one of our top-ranked 2027 prospects in the state. So they're young. They got Evan Moody, a 2026 right-handed pitcher, outfielder. So they're one that I think that Carrollton's they've always had, a winning program. So I think that the coach over there is going to probably get them back to the playoffs and see what they can do once May rolls around.
Awesome. Anybody in particular for you, Ian, that stands out?
No, Carrollton was the same team I was like to speak on as well. There's some guys I really like there, like Maddox Montar, the Texas committed shortstop, who also plays really good center field. And as Hudson mentioned, Caleb Hudson also does a lot on the mound for them as well, both in the starting spot and in the bullpen as well. Huge multi-faceted tool for them.
Yeah, Tequila, I'll touch on them just a sec. They got Mill Creek this week. It's actually a game that we might check out at some point. But they have Reeston Durham, future gamer for us, was the only 2026 on the team this past year. That's starting to heat up. I think he had a kind of a slow start to the year, but we keep seeing a lot of highlights on him. So he kind of leads the way for them at short. So they're ones too with Jared Glenn as well on the mound and over at third base. Also a future gamer, uncommitted junior. They had a big upset against Parkview last year towards the end of the year, so we'll see if they can get rolling to get into that top 10 here in the next couple weeks.
Awesome. And let's talk about 6A. Our top 10 is as stands. Tift County jumps up from number 3 to number 1. Marist from 4 to 2. Houston County drops from 2 to 3. Etowah drops from 1 to 4. And then we find Noonan moving up one spot up to 5. Blessed Trinity drops one spot down to 6. Habersham Central and Glen Academy hold their spots, and North Forsyth and Pope flip at 9 and 10.
Yeah, I can start on the bottom there just because I just got to see them yesterday. North Forsyth and Habersham Central ended up going over to Habersham to see them. Game was at North Forsyth and ended up getting switched. So made my way over there to see them. North Forsyth is 2-0 in the series. They took care of business last night. Nearly had a run rule, and Habersham snuck a couple runs across late. But yeah, North Forsyth is kind of my sneaky dark horse pick as the weeks roll on into May and into the playoffs. If they can find some consistency in their starting rotation with Seth Dixon, Braden Siebold. They have some pieces on the mound that are going to be big for him. Brady Holbrook, Belmont commit, he's on the mound as well, but he's also in the lineup every day. So I think they've got a shot. Like I said, if they can find some consistency on the mound. Braden Weems, Jr., left-handed arm, probably their best arm other than Seth Dixon. So we'll keep an eye on them. I think they're going to climb up a little bit. They'll definitely be back up, into that 6-7 spot after beating Habersham Central in those two games. So they're one to keep an eye on as we roll into April and May.
Awesome. Ian, any of those teams here that you want to touch on?
I would love to touch on Marist a little bit, a team that I really like. Another team that, can't really say they're sneaky anymore, 15-1. Their only loss in the season coming 2-1 to Parkview, one of the best teams in the state. They're pretty deep on both sides of the ball. There's some guys on their starting rotation, and Jamie Vison's a Georgia Tech committed 2025 arm, as well as another 2025 arm, and uncommitted David Albert, both right-handed pitchers who have been fantastic at the top of the rotation for them this year. And they have a couple 2026s who were huge for us at a preseason All-State this year, and Martin Sheelar, who's been a big factor with power in the outfield for them, and Will Richardson, who's been huge at third base, second base, and as a closer for them this year as well. They're a team that continues to win. They're in a region that's very winnable for this team, and they can only get stronger as the spring goes, and I think they're a team to watch as we get into the playoff season.
And they're also getting back John Loudon as well, future gamer
exactly.
for us. He was playing basketball, so they got him back. He's off to a hot start. We did a little piece on them last week. You can check out on our website in the news tab, but they got him back. He's off to a hot start. I think he had like 6 for 10 or something his first 10 ABs back. So that'll be huge for them and just a big, confidence push as they continue to climb up the ranks.
Awesome. And then right outside of the top 10, we find Brunswick, Evans, River Ridge, and Roswell. Any of those teams stick out to you?
Yeah, River Ridge, I think they have some pieces. They have some older guys on the mound that hasn't been super consistent, but I think they're kind of figuring out their groove as they get into this midway point in region play. So they got some bats. Gavin Hamrick, uncommitted junior, that's been really good for them at the top of the order. And then KJ Hart, future gamer for us, uncommitted junior as well. So I think he's starting to get on the mound now. I think they were kind of holding off till they got into region play with him. So I think that they're one that might kind of make a surprise, especially in that region. They're in the region with Etowah and Walton, Creekview, Rome. So they could get towards the top of that region, if not at the top, upsetting Etowah. But I think they'll be in that top 4 to get in the playoffs.
Awesome. Ian, anything you want to add?
I just want to touch on Alpharetta a little bit. Again, another team in a really tough region with Blessed Trinity, Lassiter, Pope, and Roswell on them. But they're a team that, if they can survive that region play with some huge wins, could make a run as we get into late into this fall or late into the spring. They're deep with senior and junior talent. But Braden Kersey leads them on the mound and at the plate. He's a Mercer commit. He's shown up to 93 this year. He's been showing a bunch of power at the plate. And Adams is a Georgia commit, also in the outfield and on the mound for them, up to 92. They just have a lot of two-way guys who hit. They compete, and they've always hit as well. Brady McDonough is an uncommitted 2025 who leads off for them and at second base, who's been huge all year long, showing bat the ball. And I think they're a team to watch, like I said, if they can survive this region that they're in.
Awesome. In 5A, our top 10 goes as so. The Cartersville in first, Villa Rica in second, Greater Atlanta Christian in third. They all hold their places. Coffee finds themselves in fourth, and then Ola in fifth. Union Grove finds themselves holding down sixth place. Kell jumps up to number 7 from 9. Locust Grove drops down 1 to number 8. Greenbrier at 9, and then McIntosh at 10.
Yeah, I think GAC and Coffee are two to kind of watch there. Conrad Kaysen had a big-time start last night. We're actually get out to see that Kell versus Greater Atlanta Christian tomorrow. They got a couple pieces, and like I said, Kell rolling off of a high, beating Etowah. I know they dropped one to Blessed Trinity, but I think that they could make their way up that board as well. And then Coffee, they started off the year hot, losing a couple games late, but they got some pieces in Michael Strickland on the mound. He's actually been a big two-way guy for them. We got down to see them earlier in the year, but then Ben Fussell in the infield for them. So he's an uncommitted 26. So I think that they're just a good all-around ball club. Coach Jones does a great job with them, coaching them up. So they're going to battle, probably be at the top of that region and get into the playoffs with a good seed.
Awesome. And then, Ian, is there anything you want to add about some of these teams in 5A?
I just want to touch on Ola, a team that's been extremely hot over late. I think they've won 10 or 11 games in a row, and they've been really cleaning out region play. Their team are really playing up to their competition and showing out every time. They're scoring a ton of runs and getting quality pitching. If they can continue to do that during region play, they continue to push their way up the board.
Gotcha. And then just on the outside, we have Cambridge, Flowery Branch, Jefferson, and Woodland. Any of those teams that stick out?
Cambridge and Jefferson, for me, I think we're going to get out to see Cambridge, I think not next week, but the following week for that GAC series. Diego Becerra is a left-handed arm for them that has kind of been on the watch list for the 26s for us. So I think he's kind of figured it out. He kind of had a tough start at Georgia Dugout Club when we first saw him, but I think he's starting to figure some things out. So we'll get out to see them. And then Jefferson, they keep winning games with Eston Simpson leading the way, Clemson commit. So he's running up to 93 now. He was our Future Games MVP, so good to see that. And then they got a couple guys in the lineup that have kind of surprised them. Owen Prim's out a little bit. He had a little thing with his hand going on. So once they can get him back, they should be able to get rolling.
Awesome. And Ian, any of the teams right here on the outside you wanted to highlight?
On 5A, not too many on these teams right on the outside of Cambridge. I think that's the team to watch really in 5A. I think they're the team with, like you said, Becerra, and the teams that are coming up below them. I think they could be a team to make a run.
Awesome. And then in 4A, we have Stars Mill holding down first place, Cherokee Bluff, North Hall holding their spots at 2 and 3. Perry jumps up 1 spot to 4. LaGrange dropping down into that 5 spot. East Forsyth holds their spot. Same goes for Northwest Whitefield, Wayne County, and North Oconee. And then Benedictine jumps up into the top 10 after previously not being ranked. Anybody here that really sticks out?
Perry was one for us that jumped into the Power 25 for us this week. So they have Connor Langdon, Mississippi State commit, leading the way for them with Cameron Vandersea, left-handed arm committed to Georgia State on the mound for them, a junior. So I know they have a freshman as well that they've said is doing pretty well at the plate. So, you never know with guys like that. They, being in South Georgia, they can sneak up on some guys once they get into the playoffs. But I think North Hall, like I said, they have the big series with Cherokee Bluff coming up. That'll kind of be the deciding series for that region. Cherokee Bluff took care of East Forsyth last night, I think. Mm-hmm. So they have a couple more games. Never know what you're going to get there. But Cherokee Bluff seems to have it figured out. They're winning the games they're supposed to. Landon Kemp, shortstop for them, second baseman. Uncommitted junior's he's been on a run. And then Jacob Vocal, I believe, Davidson commit. Yeah, Vocal. He's been on the mound and the plate for them. So they're deep. They're really, really deep. So they got some freshmen that are doing pretty well too. Bo Bruns, freshman for them that's doing pretty well. So they're one that we're really excited to see this week and maybe even next week.
Gotcha. And then anybody you wanted to touch on, Ian?
Yeah, I want to just really touch on that Stars Mill, Cherokee Bluff. Just who wins this region? I think both those teams are very similar. Like Hudson just said, Stars Mill scored Cherokee Bluff has scored 99 runs in their last 7 games in the 7-game winning streak while only giving up 11 runs. They're just blistering teams right now. Everyone's hitting from the top to bottom. Another guy I didn't mention, Bubba Caldwell, a big standout LSU commit to 2026, shortstop who's big for them as well. Shows power, could be a great glove. And I think that just watching the Stars Mill Cherokee Bluff run towards the end here with those two comparable teams will be fun to watch.
Awesome. And then sitting right outside of the top 10 in 4A, you have Central Carroll, Lovett, Troup County, and Walnut Grove. Anybody right here that could make a jump in?
Walnut Grove's in that region with East Forsyth, Cherokee Bluff, and North Hall. So it's a tough one. North Oconee is also in there. So there's only 4 spots coming out of that region, and those are obviously 5 quality teams. And Walnut Grove has a couple arms, left-handed arm for
Thomas
them.
Burke.
Yep. So
Georgia Southern commit.
They have some guys, and then Sam Martell is an uncommitted lefty, 25 as well. That's been pretty electric at times. So I don't know exactly what we're going to get there. Obviously, Cherokee Bluff is separating themselves a little bit. North Hall's kind of hanging tight, and then East Forsyth, North Oconee, and Walnut Grove, I think, are going to fight it out for those last 2 spots.
Gotcha. And Ian, any of these teams that stick out?
I think Pace Academy has a chance to make a run. They're in a region where they can win some games. So they are led by Texas A&M commit Terrence Keel, who's a really good bat at the top of their lineup. He can be dynamic on both sides of the ball, and I think that's a team to watch in that region as well. That can be huge.
Awesome. Well, then let's get into 3A. This one's a little bit more interesting. We have the 20-0 Harlem in number 1, and then Pickens and Franklin, as well as Morgan County, Peach County, Dawson County, all hold their spots 1 through 6. And then Cavalry Day School jumps up to number 7 from 8. Ringgold drops down to number 8. Adairsville jumps up to number 9 after previously not being ranked, and they jump number 10, Long County, who holds their spot.
I think that in this region, everybody's doing what they're supposed to. Obviously, Harlem's taking care of business. Pickens, they ended up dropping 1 to Wesleyan a couple weeks ago when I was out there watching them. But they're going to continue to win as well. Connor Schaus, Georgia Tech commits, their frontline guy, shortstop, pitcher, and then A.J. Rice. They pretty much alternate when each other's pitching. So that's kind of the dynamic duo for them. They got a bunch of other pieces. Coach Williams does a good job with them. So look for them to make a run. I know they're kind of eager from last year, falling short of kind of what what they were expected to do in the playoffs last year. So I think this will be a big year for them. I think they'll make a run at it. I know Ian got to see Franklin with Ty Peoples leading the way for them, so he can definitely touch on them. But Morgan County, I think they have 2 big arms in Hudson Reed and Ty Tillery that you got to keep an eye on, and then Dawson County as well. They're going to continue to play good ball. They're well coached, and then Peach County, Jackson Peavy. I think he struck out 15 batters in 5 innings the other day. Future gamer, Georgia commit for us. So they're shoved. He's been throwing really well. But yeah, that region's kind of, or that classification, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, Ian, anything you wanted to get into?
Just those 3 teams at 3, 4, 5. They're all led by a huge name that has a bunch of skill that can carry a team, and just to see who can really separate themselves from that grouping with like Hudson said with Morgan County and Hudson Reed, who's also huge to the plate for that team as well, and with Peach County as well.
All right, and then just outside, we have quite a few teams here kind of on the outside looking in 3A. It's Columbus, Gordon Lee, Lumpkin, Oconee County, Savannah Christian, and White County. Anybody right there that really sticks out?
Yeah, Lumpkin County, I know they have some pieces back with sophomore Mason Hester, dual sport guy, quarterback for them, and then Harpin Davenport, I believe, Kennesaw State commit. So they're ones that I went to see last year in the Pickens series. I think that was actually for the region, so you never know with them. I know Pickens took care of White County this past weekend, so they got it done there. And then Savannah Christian, they're ones that they were up here earlier in the year, so solid ball club as well. But probably out of that list, keep an eye on Lumpkin would be the one for me.
Yeah, and yourself, Ian?
No, I think Hudson touched on the main teams that can make a run in that region. That region's pretty chalk for right now, so it would be surprising to see a team like Mary Persons could make a run. They have a quality lineup that can beat quality teams. I think that's a team to watch as well.
Yeah, I forgot about them. They've had a tough schedule. They played Houston. They went down to their little Diamond Day thing they did. They played North Paulding, maybe, I believe. So they've played some quality guys. Brady Crispin kind of leads the way from them. I think he has like 8 or 9 bombs on the year with a bunch of extra base hits. So they're a team. If they can get in there, they should be able to make a little run at it.
Gotcha.
Big quality win last week, beating Morgan County 10-0 as well.
Okay, so in 2A, this one, a lot of guys stay the same as well. North Cobb Christian, Mount Perrin, Redden, and Callaway all hold the top 4 spots respectively. And then Worth County jumps up to number 5 from number 6. Washington County jumps up a spot to 6. Model County moves up 1 spot to 7. Cook drops down to 8 from 5. Appling County stays the same, and same for Rockmart. Any teams in here in particular that really catch your eye?
I like Model. Logan has gotten a chance to go out to see them a good bit. Reese Grodman leads the way for them, sophomore pitcher, third base, shortstop, kind of does it all for them. But they got a freshman, Jonah Winton, that's doing well for them. They got a couple of uncommitted 25s in Hudson Latimer and Jared Terhun. So they're one to keep an eye on. They're a really good lineup. They got some guys running in some balls and hitting some balls out of the yard. So I like them a lot. Callaway Redan, that series is taking place. I believe tomorrow. They're supposed to play today, so might go check them out tomorrow. I know they got some pieces. Redan has Colin Brightwell, Oklahoma commit, that I'm sure Ian could touch on a little bit. But those are kind of my 3 teams to definitely keep an eye on. Model, Callaway, Redan, with that Callaway and Redan series happening this week.
Gotcha. And yourself, Ian?
I think everyone still continues to chase North Cobb Christian. I think that's a roster that could be a competing team in 4A or 5A. I think it's top to bottom is very strong, led by a really good arm and Asher Sabam as well. I think everybody still continues to chase at Redan. Like Hudson said, has been really good as well. They've just continued to beat teams. They're scoring a ton of runs. Colin Brightwell, a really athletic center fielder for them, who hits from both sides of the plate, shows power. I think he's hitting like 600 or something to start the year so far, at least 570, I believe. So I think they're a team to watch. If they can be strong in this and continue to stay good in region, I think they're a team to watch and push up the rankings.
Gotcha. Well, is there any teams right on the outside of 2A that you guys want to look at? Right now, it's got Brantley County, Eagles Landing Christian, Fellowship Christian, Haralson County, and Landmark Christian. Anybody there, or maybe another team that could jump in?
I think Fellowship Christian is going to be one to know for the future, not necessarily this year. They're loaded with freshman talent. We've seen a bunch of them throughout the preseason. So definitely bookmark Fellowship Christian for the next couple of years. They got a young squad with Coach Oliver leading the way for them. They know how to win games. They made a deep run last year and dropped a series to Mount Perrin, which was absolutely loaded with Georgia Tech. You got to see him going blank. Tate McGee,
yes.
With Tate McGee, and then their Mississippi State guy as well. So tough series for them. But, yeah, they're definitely one to keep an eye on down the road in the next couple years.
Gotcha. Anybody for you, Ian?
And a team for me is Jeff Davis. They started with a really tough schedule going 0-7, and now they've rattled off 10 straight wins. They went 9-0 in region, and then they just beat Lowndes last night as well. They're a team that's getting hot at the right time. They're led by a really strong arm in Duke Stone, who's been good for them, and they continue to get better. And like I said, 10 straight wins, 9-0 in region is hard to pass up. And they're a team that started off in the rankings at the beginning of the year. Like I said, 7 straight losses, now getting hot at the right time and could be big down the stretch.
All right, well, let's get into the 1A divisions. First, 1A Division 2. Number 1 stays the same, and same goes all the way down the list to number 6. You have Charlton County, Schley County, Baconton, Bowden, Emmanuel County Institute, and then Washington Wilkes. And then at 7, Wilcox County jumps up 1 spot. At 8, same goes for Johnson County. Lanier County drops down to number 9, and Towns County holds down the number 10 spot. Anybody here that you guys have gotten to see or at least heard quite a bit about?
Yeah, we got to go over to see Bowden last week. Will Huggins, uncommitted 25. That's a really premier shortstop in the class. Recently uncommitted, so we're kind of excited to see where he's going to end up. Maybe even snag him on the 17U Future Games team. So he's a big bat for him, leading the way. But yeah, we're trying to slowly tick these guys off, tick the boxes on these guys, get out to see them. I know Washington Wilkes they're really athletic and have some pieces. We got a chance to see them last year. But yeah, that's all we got in the 1A Division 2 for the most part is Bowden so far. So definitely want to get out to see some of these guys more.
Gotcha. And then we've got a couple teams on the outside there in Division 2. Christian Heritage, Early County, Lake Oconee, Manchester, and Marion County. Anything you've heard about any of these guys?
It's tough. Christian Heritage is actually who Bowden played, so I think Bowden took care of them. I know they got a couple guys that we've seen in the past that have played up here at Lakepoint a couple times, but this just goes to show the depth in Georgia baseball. Obviously, Ian's been all over the state, and we still haven't been able to see everybody. It's a tough, tall task for us, but we're trying to mark them off slowly but surely.
Yeah, I could definitely speak to the depth because I've lived in Georgia my entire life, and there are some schools here I've never heard of.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And somebody's going to win it that you probably never heard of either. So I didn't.
Exactly.
Obviously, Prince Avenue Christian, we'll get into them next, but they've been a powerhouse for a long time. But I've never really got out to see them until last year. So it's definitely been cool to see, to learn, and how deep the state truly is.
Yeah, there's commits coming from everywhere. So let's go ahead and talk about 1A Division I. Prince Avenue Christian holds down the number 1 spot. Pepperell right behind them. Irwin County holds down number 3. Crawford County jumps up to number 4. Tallulah Falls drops down 1 to 5. Kings Ridge holds their place at 6. But Bleckley County moves up to 7. Whitefield Academy holds down number 8. And then Bryan County jumps Elbert County for the number 9 spot. Elbert County holds down the number 10. Anybody here that you guys have gotten a chance to see?
So I saw the Prince Avenue Kings Ridge game the other day. Prince Avenue ended up getting them by a run, but Kings Ridge is going to be a team that's going to be in the top 5 of this classification for the next couple of years. They have Taylor Markakis at the top of the lineup for them, son of Nick Markakis. So he's actually leading the way in batting average for them this year. And then after that, they have a couple seniors that have been great for them, Nate Kidridge and Luke Hill. They've been some guys for them down the road. So they're going to be some big shoes to fill in the next couple of years. But Lee Holt, a freshman who had a great preseason, he's starting to get some at-bats for him. He's been throwing a lot on the mound, but he's starting to get some at-bats. And so they're definitely a team to keep an eye on in this classification for the next couple of years.
Gotcha. And what about yourself, Ian? Anybody here that kind of sticks out to you?
Whitefield Academy is led by a really good arm, and Peyton Robideau, who we like here a lot. And they're also winning big games in a tough region. I think they started a little bit later than everybody else, and now they're really starting to put it together, and they could be a team to make a run. Like I've said about a bunch of teams, but as these teams get healthy and all the arms start to get really stretched out and fully ready to go, I think we start to see the full potential of some of these squads.
Gotcha. And anything to talk about with the couple teams on the outside? Athens Christian, Commerce, St. Francis, Social Circle, and Swainsboro.
Yeah, Crawford County, I'll jump back up real quick. I was trying to remember his name, but Andrew Hammock is a big arm for them that's kind of been helping them out and kind of leading the way from them. So they have him, with some of these smaller schools, all they really need is an arm or two, and if they have a strong lineup, then they can figure it out. But St. Francis is one; they've kind of been on the list. I'm pretty close over to them, so gonna try to get over to see them, maybe against Whitfield Academy to see Peyton Robideau throw against them if it works out. So yeah, that's the 1A Division I. That's all I got on them.
Gotcha. Anything from you, Ian?
I do not have any.
Okay.
I was going to go see Metter a few weeks ago, and then plans changed right before that happened with some injuries. But that's a team that I wanted to see that could make a run down the line.
Gotcha. Well, that wraps up everything for the classification rankings. I feel pretty good about those lists. I think we had a very good conversation there. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the games you guys got a chance to see this week. And we'll start with you, Hudson. Any games this week that you attended? Anything you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I was out to see the Habersham Central versus North Forsyth series. North Forsyth took game 1 with Seth Dixon, uncommitted 26, shortstop, right-handed pitcher. He had a really big game against them, and then Sam Moore, another 26 arm, came in and shut the door for him up to 90, just kind of blowing fastballs by guys. So that's kind of like I mentioned, they're arms that if they can get consistent, if they could get Dixon and Sam rolling out of the pen, then they could really make a run at this thing. I know Bryson Germanenko, he had a big night last night. He's been struggling a little bit. They've been alternating catchers between him and Ozzie Patterson. So Germanenko had a big 2 for 3, almost 3 for 3 night. All 3 were barreled balls, all 3 doubles, actually. Center fielder kind of muffed one of them that could have been a borderline hitter error. But I think they're going to make a statement. Obviously, Habersham Central kept creeping up. Their record kept improving. So we definitely, bumped them up a couple spots. But now that North Forsyth is in the mix, they'll get back into that top 5 spot probably. And then I think North Forsyth is a team that's going to end up in the Power 25 in the next couple weeks. I really like their lineup. Ellis Aldridge has been a favorite since the summer, athletic outfielder that can really hit. And then we mentioned Brady Holbrook, Belmont commit, left-handed bat that's been really good for them. So they got a bunch of pieces. They're going to be good for the next couple of years, especially next year. Braden Seabold, I got to see him throw. He was at preseason All-State into the upper 80s. He had a small little injury earlier in the year, but now I think he's back through 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. So it was good to see from him. So that's kind of, one of those guys I mentioned that if he can get consistent along with Weems and Dixon, then they could really make a run at this thing.
All right, and Ian, I know you've seen quite a few baseball games already this season, but who'd you see this past week?
I was a little bit all over the place. I started off my week off with a good region matchup with Marietta and Harrison. I saw probably the best start I've ever seen from 2026 left-hander Colin White, a Georgia Tech commit. He was at 91. He was throwing a really good curveball, a really good slider as well, up to 79, and was mixing in the changeup. He ended up holding a really strong lineup for Marietta under control for 5 innings, and then getting them to a win as well in a big series that they needed to win. Harrison's been a team that's been overachieving so far this year, and now with another region win was huge for them. I was all over the place with different kinds of games this week. A guy I saw on Sunday actually was a A-back pitcher on the JUCO ranks, and Jordan Stevens. He's the highest-ranked Georgia player in our JUCO ranks right now, and uncommitted as well, up to 96 with a heavy rolling ball fastball that was getting past guys. Had a really good slider as well and a good changeup. And another team I saw this week was I went all the way up to Ridgeland, school never heard of until I looked it up on the border of Georgia and Tennessee this weekend to see a few good teams. I saw Blessed Trinity again. I saw Augusta Christian, a team we mentioned earlier, with Khalil Pratt, a Super 60 participant, a center fielder for them, committed to, I believe, Kentucky. Yeah, committed to Kentucky. 6'6", 205, switch hitter, just really looks the part. Played a really good center field as well. I should have run to it on the line and had a good barrel. Another guy I saw from them was Luca Perello, for Virginia Tech, a catcher of 2024 as well. Really good barrel from him as well. Showed a really good approach. Played a really tough team, a nationally ranked Lewisburg team from Mississippi, and Augusta Christian's a team with 150 kids in school, and they went toe-to-toe with a school like that. It was really impressive to see, and it was a really big week for them as well.
Yeah,
awesome.
I was able to actually get out to see Buford versus Mill Creek as well. The weeks start running together. But
I was thinking the same thing.
But, yeah, Buford versus Mill Creek, that was a good one. Mill Creek has Walker and Will Myhand. Will Myhand being a really strong outfielder in our class for us. So didn't have anything to show for. Had a couple good ABs. And then Braden Burton was the arm that I was trying to remember. He had a big outing. Another similar to Seabold. I actually compare them to a lot, both at preseason All-State, both uncommitted 25s that I think can really help a team down the road. So Burton had a really big outing, and then Damian Brown, probably the best uncommitted 24 pitcher in the state. We saw his kind of big showing last year over on Field 9 in the Battle for Bartow. Went off against Etowah. 7-inning shutout. I think he had 12 or 13 strikeouts. Fastballs mid-80s, touching upper 80s. Ridiculous slider up to 3,000 spin. And then he comes out into 88, 89. He threw 7 pitches to close it out in a 3-0 game in the 7th. So somebody needs to get on him. I know there was a couple of coaches there watching him, but he's got a special arm talent for sure, and he's not the biggest kid. The arm just works. So with a little bit of development, we could see a big arm out of Damian Brown.
Gotcha, and I like that you brought him up. Any other guys that you guys saw this week that maybe haven't been on the radar before?
Zagrin brothers, they've been on our radar, but Ian got a chance to see
Exactly.
them for the first time versus Kel last week. So I know he liked what he saw in the Zagrin twins.
Absolutely. Aiden Zagrin especially, he's been getting to play some time at third base after seeing a lot of first base early in his career. Cade Kiss is out for the team as well right now, so they're having to move Zagrin to third, and it's looked fantastic. The glove has looked above average there. He showed some really good plays. He's light on his feet. He's caught barrels every time he stepped to the plate. I actually saw Blessed Trinity twice last week. I saw Aiden go off in one game. I saw Carson go off in the other. They're extremely physical. They're growing into their 6'2" frames seemingly every day. And they're both uncommitted 25s. Those are guys we would love to see maybe on a future game team this summer that could fit with a lot of teams in Power 5 conferences right now. And I think they're guys to really watch. Another guy from that team, a guy we really love, a really highly ranked player in the class, is Caden Dawson, an outfielder, number 6 player in the country right now, or number 1 player in the 2027 rankings. He's about as advanced as you'll find as a freshman. He's the vocal leader on this team. He leads the dugout. He understands his approach to the plate. He catches barrels every single time. He goes up there and not afraid of any arm, whether it's 90s, whether it's 80s. He's sitting on breaking balls. It's just advanced every time you see it, and that's a guy who thinks just continues to improve and can be one of the main players in the country.
Awesome. Well, it's obvious that you guys have seen a lot of baseball, and you've seen a lot of players, a lot of great performances. Hudson, we'll start with you. Who had your best pitching performance of the week?
I think Braden Burton gets that one last week for week 6. I think Braden Seabold's going to make a case for it in week 7, but I think Braden Burton gets that. I think they needed that win against Mill Creek. They should be able to kind of take care of business in this region now, getting past Mill Creek. They're always one that always seems to have a pretty good battle against them. But Braden Burton, I think that's my guy this week. I think he had the frame. Didn't even mention it. It's like 6'5", 6'6", so a lot to build on there. He's flipping over the breaking balls for strikes. And I think the most impressive thing from him was in the first inning. Had a chopper, little beat me out single to lead it off, and then Georgia commit Daniel Pierce. That's correct, right?
Yep.
Caleb Daniel Pierce. Those two always get me. But
both Georgia commits.
Yeah, so he had a liner right back up the middle, probably triple-digit EV. I was running over to get him and ended up missing it. But first and second, no outs. Braden Burton buckles down and gets them out of it, which I think set the tone for the entire game for them. So Braden Burton would definitely be my performance of the week.
Awesome. And Ian, what about you? What was the best pitching performance you got to see?
A game I didn't mention earlier, but I saw a really good matchup early in the week last week with South Forsyth going up against West Forsyth, and the player Tyler Bear, the starter for South Forsyth, was humongous for them. He's a Kennesaw State commit. He came out a little bit flat early in the game, living high 80s, and then came out in second and third inning, running up into 90, 92, 93 as well. Showed a really good slider and a curveball, and a changeup as well. Really competed throughout the night. Walked a few guys, had a little bit of sporadic command, but still knew how to throw strikes, and really competed and had a bulldog mentality on the mound. Wanted to control his field and knew what he had to do to get a win in a huge region matchup.
Awesome. And Hudson, who'd you see shine at the plate this week?
So I got to see Denmark versus Lambert earlier in the week. Denmark's going to be a team to keep an eye on down the road. They got some 26s that can really play. So I think Coach Core is kind of putting together that big season for those 26s when they get juniors and seniors. So definitely keep an eye on them. But I think Jason Williams gets it for me. Even though they did lose that game by 1 run, Jason had 2 hits. His first one being when they were down 6-1, I believe. Hit a 3-run triple to get them back into it. And then into their final out, he hits another one, first and second, 2 outs. He hits a double that nearly ties the game. So 2-hit night for him. He's been a guy we've been really high on, batting over 400 this year, really consistent in the field. I know Ian got to see him over at shortstop the other day, play second some, but he would be my performance of the week at the plate.
Gotcha. And what about yourself, Ian?
I've seen a lot of good performances this week, and I just mentioned him earlier today, but it was Hayes McGinnis, man. He didn't get a hit, but got on base 5 times, stole 5 bases and 5 runs. To see that out of a freshman is just quite impressive. That's just a different approach from guys, and I think that's going to be my guy from the week. That's that Noonan as well. Excuse me, I didn't mention that.
I love it. You got to get on base,
dude, and do a job.
We all learned it from Moneyball.
Dude, got to.
All right, so that's going to be the performers of the week. And to wrap this all up, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on this weekend and coming up. So this weekend at Lakepoint, we've got the Prep Baseball Easter Challenge. That's going to be 11 through 14U. It's a one-day event on Saturday, no games on Sunday or Friday, 1 game of pool play, and then it's straight into bracket play. So that'll be pretty exciting happening at Lakepoint this weekend. And then we've got week 2 of the Spring Break Experience starting up next week. It starts up actually on Tuesday this time, April 2nd, and then it'll go through Thursday, April 4th. We've got teams from Illinois, Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio, and then a couple of teams from Georgia as well participating in that. Anything you guys wanted to touch on for the Spring Break Experience?
I'll touch on the Easter Challenge first, surprisingly. So those youth guys, those 2028s, be sure to get out to an event with us May 29th. We'll have our a Rising Stars Lakepoint kind of deal that we usually run at the beginning of the year. So come out, get some numbers, get some baseline numbers. It's always good for them. We kind of walk through the showcase process with them. Most of the time, it's typically their first showcase, even though these Georgia kids are going to showcases all the time. But it's a cool experience. You get some numbers on there. You get to see how you get to grow. Cooper Underwood is the one that I like to kind of pick on, Georgia Tech commit for us. That's a junior now, but He came to one of the events, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. He was 71, 72, when he was 13, 14, and now he's an upper 80s arm. So it's just cool to see. It's cool to come full circle. So be sure to get out to that event, get a chance to be picked for the 14U Junior Future Games team. So definitely get out May 29th at Lakepoint Sports. You can find all that info on the Prep Baseball Georgia website.
Awesome, yeah, and that website will be linked down in the description on the YouTube video, so you can find it all there. Anything for the spring break experience?
I mean, just touching back on that, sorry to cut you off there, Hudson, but with Cougar Underwood, with Altoona being there as well, I was excited to see this team from Georgia face some teams from out of state. There's Team Moeller from Ohio coming down, led by Kellen Klosterman, a right-handed pitcher who was at Super 60, a really good arm coming to Notre Dame, and we'll be excited to see how our teams stack up to teams from out of state as they get rolling in the spring.
Yeah, Rabin Gap. I think they're making an appearance in the spring break experience. So, obviously excited to see them. Coach Wright does a good job with those guys up there. They have Aiden Kitchens, Missouri commit, who's a future gamer for us. Jeremy Ramos, catcher Jeffrey Diaz. They have a overseas kid that's like upper 90s at times. We've been seeing some video on. So definitely want to get a chance to see them. I know we got to see them a little bit earlier in the year, but they got all their pieces back now, so definitely try to check them out against some of these out-of-state teams.
Awesome. Anything you guys need to add to this before we get out of here?
I don't think so, man. I think we've covered a lot today.
Yeah, roll through those classification rankings. Want to keep touching on those. Obviously, it's cool to get a breakdown of those top 10 guys and some of those guys creeping up the leaderboard. I think here soon we're probably need to start getting some picks for the playoffs coming in.
Yeah.
So I know we got Houston County coming up on Friday, doubleheader there. So be sure to stay tuned on X with Prep Baseball Georgia. We'll be down there covering that game, which will be really, really exciting.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you to Hudson and Ian for joining me here today. And I think that's going to do it for us, guys. That was PeachFuzz. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll be back next week. Thanks.